Hello, everyone. This is Minding Our Mental Health, about our 15th episode. We've been gone for a little while, but we're back. Very important um, platform and discussion to have. Mental health is, especially in these times, a very difficult thing to discuss. Most people do not wish to discuss it, but more and more are starting to be comfortable with it. More and more find it a necessary part of our existence. Um, I want to talk about the different aspects of how stress affects us. I just got back from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and one of the things they talk about is the Tulsa massacre of 1921. And that's a legacy of that city. And it's a imagination for sure of some of the stresses that the folks in that time went through. If you don't know the story, of course, 300 Black folks were killed. Their whole city was destroyed. And it was a very prosperous city that people were jealous of around the country. And it was destroyed, and it's a legacy now. It's a very good thing to go check out. And then I think about the citizens of Gaza, and I saw a report about how they struggle for food every day. The kids, they wake up in the morning, they go to one kitchen. They wake up, they travel from that kitchen. If there's no food there, go to another kitchen. Then they keep, that's their normal routine every day, trying to find food. So that stress is unimaginable to us who have food every day. But there are different kinds of stress that we go through and people go through, and it's sometimes stress, of course, is normal for a human being, but what kind of stress is too abnormal? I'm sure the Gaza stress is too abnormal, as well as the Tulsa stress that they experienced. Um, can you talk about the different types of stress, Sister Jennifer?
Um, yeah, different types of stress. Do you mean what we're experiencing right now in this current time? Do you
What
mean
anybody experiences, you know, the stress that Black people have may be different than white people, but they may be in a situation that they coming out of a store and they see a bunch of people at the foot of the store at the beginning of the store. That may cause them stress. um, they're different. There's stress from fear. There's stress from um, too much pressure.
that's
Different kinds of stress. Can you talk about that?
that was exactly what I was going to refer to, the pressure part, right? So stress is usually that too much pressure or being under pressure or demand. So, like in this economy, it's a lot of changes, and a lot of the changes makes it pressure because we don't know what to expect to be able to survive in this, everyday, functioning state. So that is an example of pressure that impacts all of us. Why? Except maybe the excessively rich. Why? Because we've had significant changes to our economy that impact us every day, like the grocery store and buying food. That's stress and that's pressure because you have to earn the money to purchase the food that is heightenedly expensive right now, right? So then that is a stress response that we would be under pressure to make sure that we can maintain what we need to survive. So examples of that is a type of stress. Also, just family issues, discriminatory concerns, like you were talking about Black people and us being in survival mode a lot of the time so that we could survive. That causes a stress. Now we do have a stress response to those types of things as well, which can be misinterpreted sometimes as threats that aren't really threats because we experienced it before. But if we're talking about stress in general, it's the pressure, for sure.
I know the economists as well as businesses talk about the uncertainty of the economy and that they can't plan, and it's stressing them out. And that's what causes a lot of fluctuation in the stock market and different things. So they have, for them, it's kind of abnormal. They have not normalized, but in the case of, food, buying gas, buying cars or different things, at some point it's going to become a normal. We expect this. We expect it to be at this rate or at this way. So it may become normal and go out of the phase of abnormal. Natasha, what do you see as different kinds of stress?
Jennifer really held down the definition of what stress is. One of the things that how I've flipped the script of our natural human response to stress is viewing stressors as opportunities for expansion and growth, beginning internally within ourselves. So it's really an opportunity for us to tap into creative, innovative thinking, becoming more, expanding our ability to become solution oriented and really help us get out of the mindset of survival mode, because stress does trigger survival mode. But if we take time to really sit with what's causing the stress, our natural human responses to that stress, and really process it within ourselves first, we can tap into our ability to create and be innovative and really becoming the answer to the issues that is stimulating the stress. So that's my part on it. Just how do we reverse engineer what stress typically triggers and harness that stress to really tap into something new, something fresh, something innovative, something progressive that could not only benefit ourselves individually or even our family, but us as a whole collectively as human beings.
Are you talking about new type of interactions, new type of challenges, those things that would expand your growth, but at first, because you're not familiar with it, it may be a little stressful? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, and it really is situational based. It depends on the situation. It depends on the dilemma that a person may find themselves. But I could give myself as an example. I guess one of the reasons why now the price of food rising so much doesn't necessarily cause me stress, because I've been homeless before. And during that time, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody to be in a situation where they're making life decisions at the grocery store. It's like I only have $30 in my pocket. I don't know when I'm gonna get more money. I don't know what tomorrow holds. How much do I actually spend to get groceries? How much do I spend to go to the gas station so I can get to work? Like really trying to stretch and make more out of $30 than what can really be possible to meet all of your needs in that moment, in that day, with this uncertainty of tomorrow. So that was a season in my life where I had to learn to tap into new ways of thinking, creativity, in innovative ways, and really get out of the place of survival mode and ask myself, how can I use this challenging season in my life to grow in a thriving mindset, to where if I ever encounter something like this again in the future, my response will be totally different. I won't feel that I'm in despair. I won't feel like, my whole world is falling apart. I won't feel any of those things internally. And then I'll be able to respond with a more clear response and something just totally different that's out of the realm of survival. And that really causes me to thrive amid the uncertainty that I'm facing in life around me.
It's hard for the economy to stress you out in any way, given your experience. Brother Time, so what do you think about different types of anxiety?
Well, yeah, different types of anxiety. You've got a lot of different types. I've seen the uh, issues with culture, how people express themselves, um, being Black or African American in a society where they don't value you as a human being. That's a stress. It's becoming more and more pronounced. I'm in the classroom with kids all day when I'm not seeing my clients, and I see it there. I mean, I'm talking about 12 and 13-year olds are having anxiety attacks because of uh, life issues that they shouldn't even have to be concerned with. Um, Most of the kids, to talk about what Natasha just said, most of the kids that I see, I have like 115 students. Most of them, 95% of them, are hungry all the time. I spend a lot of money that I don't have uh, feeding them snacks because they're hungry, like truly hungry. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've run to the store during my conference period during the day to get kids snacks because they're begging for food, they're hungry. And these are white kids, these are Black kids, these are Hispanic kids, these are all of them. And it's not like they're just greedy. These these kids are hungry, but it's got to be something. I mean, they're eating at school, but I understand that they're not necessarily eating at home. So you've got a lot of issues there. So you got that. You've got the stress of education
The stress of
or
being a teacher.
of being a teacher, the lack of education. Our school system is terrible. Um, they're not teaching the kids. And when I say they, I'm using it loosely because society, the way the system is set up now and has been for the last 20 something years, the kids don't learn anything.
Well, that's a whole nother subject, a whole nother show. But I know this, the stress on teachers is incredible. And I would say that really no teacher, unless they are have such a great foundation, they shouldn't try to make it over 5 years because and I did 32 years. So you understand, I'm a little crazy and a little touchy on that, still moving like this. But
Yeah.
stress as a teacher is incredible. And I have seen the stress with the students, the rate of suicide has increased and is still increasing. Go ahead, brother.
Last year, a girl hung herself by her neck, died. Her
Did
parents,
she do it at the school?
she did it at home. Her parents walked in her bedroom and found her. This happened a year ago.
And that's
Um,
happening more and more everywhere.
yeah,
Yes.
well, there's some round table discussions I've had quite by accident with the kids. They brought up topics and talk about how anxious they are. And so I asked the question, how many of you all in this classroom are anxious? Almost every one of them raised their hand. That shouldn't be the case, but they are. And it's absolutely sad. And they wear it, every day. You see them having all kinds of symptomatology because of this. And the body isn't made to handle that kind of stress all the time. The cortisol production in your brain is only meant for short periods of time to get you out of life-threatening situations. Yet in society, we're under food stress, economic stress of every kind, housing stress. I was walking down the street yesterday and somebody literally laying in the middle of the sidewalk just sleeping. Like, where'd this guy come from? I mean, it's a lot.
But I'd like to say that the stress that those students have is different than the students and the people in Gaza, and our society presents a stressful program. Let's say a girl gets her cell phone taken away and that stresses her out. She's upset because of her socialization and what is important to her, and that wouldn't be a thing for somebody else. Let me ask you, Jennifer, what are things that would be recognized as abnormal stress compared to normal stress? Because as human beings, as Time said, we're gonna have stress, but how do you recognize stress is now abnormal as opposed to normal?
I can't say that any stress is abnormal. That's based on your opinion and your interpretation and what you do know about being able to process stress, right? And understanding what it is and identifying when your body is in that stress response, right? If you don't know that, you don't understand it, you can't identify it. So it would be prolonged stress. But I can't say that someone else's stress is abnormal. I can say that the impact of that stress long term definitely can cause abnormalities in their physical state for sure, because stress will kill you. So, it impacts your heart and your mental function and everything, your gastrointestinal system. So if you're asking what people should be or shouldn't be stressed about, I can't do that. I can't say anything about that because that's their experience, and I can't dismiss or judge someone else's interpretation or experience.
That's why I gave the example of the phone, because I've experienced that when I took my daughter's phone. My daughter's about 4'10", maybe 110 pounds, but I took her phone and she started walloping, and I'm trying to use everything I got, trying to enforce this, but hey, that was a squab right there, and it was serious. So that stressed her out and made her superhuman.
And there could be a lot of reasons for that. But what do you mean by superhuman? Do you mean she was stronger than she normally would, or you would
than
think?
I expected.
You know why? Because your cortisol hormones give you, it makes you smarter, stronger, faster to respond to the threat. So your heart pumps more blood, moves it to your muscles to make you stronger to respond to the threat. And the threat could be a perceived one. You taking everything that she knows away. Why? She owned it. I know all the time. You took it away for a reason, but that is how she accesses information. That's how she talks to her friends. That's how it may be something that she shouldn't be doing on there. And she don't want you to see it. It could be a lot of different things. And so then now, okay, I'm stressed. Let me make sure that I protect because that's what our stress response is for, to protect us. So let me make sure I protect everything that's gonna keep me safe. Because if I feel unsafe, then I'm gonna have all that strength to try to keep that thing that I don't want you to have, or I want to keep to myself, away from you, because you're trying to take it away, and that's not safe.
Let me ask this: the subject of our conversation is how anxiety can affect our health.
Anxiety and stress are two different things, and so I was kind of, I mean, yeah, when we just talked and you asked Mr. Time.
Can you explain that?
So stress is the pressure, right? And it can be anxiety over a long term, turning into stress in our bodies. Stress response happens in both. Also anger. So anger, stress, and anxiety all releases the cortisol hormone to protect us from the threat. Okay, but anxiety is usually when your body feels unsafe, but you actually are safe. So if you, just like your daughter, now she didn't have a stress response, But there was an anxious response because she didn't know what you were going to do with it, how long you were going to keep it. And she doesn't mean that you were going to do anything harmful to her. But her perception of her being safe when you taking what she depends on for her functionality away is an anxious response, if that makes sense. So stress and anxiety not the same. They are in the same category, though.
Yes, ma'am. That makes great sense. If you're living in that type of, if I had kept it, let's say 3 months, and that was a prolonged time for her, how could that have affected her health?
Her mental health, definitely.
Even
Primarily,
her physical health. Also, if somebody has a prolonged stress, how can it affect their physical health?
Oh, so many ways, you know, with the health conditions that us in the Black community, because we always hypervigilant. Why? Because we have to be. Hypervigilance is always sensing that you're in danger. So you're trying to prevent yourself from being in that danger, right? And that is, you know, due to the discrimination, all the things that we endure. Okay. So if you are in that state, a lot of the times, what do Black people usually have health conditions and, you know, pass away from? Stroke, high blood pressure, heart disease. All of these things are related to stress and not managing it. Okay. Now, other things are hereditary, but you know, like how we eat and things. But the cortisol hormone is the biggest one because we don't know how to manage it. So it'll cause gastrointestinal upset. Our stomach is our second brain. So usually when we're anxious, I know for me, if I'm anxious, which anxiety is a healthy emotion, my stomach starts doing this bubbly, nausea, like uncomfortable thing, right? That's because you got the cortisol hormone pumping more blood to your stomach because you can't be responding to a threat if you're hungry. So what's going to happen is acid going to build up in your stomach. Now, the long term, you got acid reflux, you got stomach ulcers, all these other things because of that acid being built in your stomach. And because your cortisol hormone only supposed to really be there at the most to help you respond to a threat. It's supposed to be 90 seconds, but the longest that's healthy, 15 minutes. After that, you don't need all of that energy to do anything because you have either protected yourself or you didn't. But when you stress, it lasts elongated amount of time. Then your stomach don't know it can't digest food. You can't rest and digest if it's stress or a threat there. So when that stays around, that causes so many issues. That's where IBS comes from, irritable bowel syndrome, all those things. Now, the stress hormone also causes you to do things that will help you increase your dopamine releasing serotonin, which is like eating food that make you feel good or drinking or smoking to change that stress response so you can feel more relaxed. And that's when all these habits develop, right? And then there's just so many impacts of it. Brain fog, it impacts your interpretation, how you see things, how you're able to remember. Forgetfulness is a part of that. It's a lot of different, your circulation, your breathing, shortness of breath is a part of it. There's so many different health conditions that, like I said, when we talked about it last time, diabetes, all these things, all these autoimmune diseases like thyroid disorders and things of that nature, that comes from stress. Rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah.
All of those things have affected me and my family, and I see the root as, anxiety and stress and being able to manage it. And it affects everybody, though, especially in the Black community.
For sure.
We are some of the main people that are affected by it. And that's why I hear a lot of times people talking about, hey, managing your stress. Natasha, what's been some of your experiences that you've seen or experienced yourself with people managing stress or yourself managing stress and anxiety?
It's important to transform our trauma responses into healthy activities and freedom strategies. I like everything that Ms. Jennifer has shared because we do tend to turn to a trauma responsive behavior pattern in response to stress. If we're smoking, drinking, eating unhealthy foods, retail therapy, all these different things that's in the process of sabotaging ourselves because we're trying to soothe ourselves and ease all of the responses to stress. So it's really good to find healthy ways to manage it. Exercising is one of my favorite, and to find the type of exercising you actually enjoy. Because sometimes we shy away from those things that are healthy because it seems like work if we don't have a natural inclination for fitness. It's like, oh, that's a lot of work to go for a jog, for a run. But when you tap into, I say try different things until you tap into what you enjoy. I enjoy weight resistance training. That's something I enjoy the most. I don't have a problem going to the gym to lift some weights and stuff, and that helps me manage those seasons or moments in life where I may experience a lot of stress. Is something I still enjoy even when I'm stressful. It's something that I enjoy even when I'm not. Another thing that had came to me when you all were talking about anxiety, and I like how Jennifer said is when we feel unsafe, when you're actually safe. And it reminded me of how threats are subjective, just as like trauma. So what I may perceive to be traumatic or a threat, you may not perceive it as trauma or a threat. But I noticed that a lot of times it's asking us, there's a critical question that we can ask ourselves in those moments. Is everything I perceive to be safe an illusion of safety? Because I think those moments are challenging what we perceive to view as safe. And if we are honest with ourselves in some of those moments, whatever that thing is, it may give an illusion or an appearance of safety, but not necessarily provide safety. So I always challenge people because how we define trauma in our community, it violates your internal sense of safety, security, and stability. So those are moments that's inviting us to explore how we can maintain a sense of internal safety, security, and stability within ourselves to where we're always safe, even if something externally is happening that gives us a perception that we're unsafe. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but those were my thoughts that was coming to mind.
Yes, ma'am. When you're talking about perception of safety as opposed to real safety, I just thought about, sometime when I'm at the store and let's say maybe I see some young men outside, young Black men outside, and I have a nervousness that comes to me. And, if I'm real nervous, I may go the other way. But what I found that, hey, I need to walk by, I need to engage, and I find out that what I thought it was or what they were about is totally different than what my perception was. And a lot of times I've challenged myself because, your mind plays tricks on you, like the old song says. And it teaches you or it wants you to perceive certain things when it has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. Times, what are some of the ways you've seen anxiety and stress work in your own life or in other lives? Times, you there? Well, we'll come back to you, brother.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now ask that question again because my computer glitched and I didn't hear the
Okay,
whole
what I was saying is, what are some ways that you have experienced or you've seen people experience stress? And given the example of the perception of anxiety as opposed to the reality of the situation, what are some things that you have seen?
Well, wow, that could be uh well, so I guess what we're talking about, maybe some situational type of things. Uh,
Well, in a lot of ways, we're talking about the perception that would give you that initial feeling of anxiety as opposed to the reality. And there's so many situations that can happen in, because the first thought comes in your mind, and then you see what the reality is, and then you maybe have a different reaction.
well, I was talking to, well, this Diddy trial is going on, and I got into a conversation with a colleague at school,
This is going to
and
be interesting.
this lady had a different perspective. She believed that Cassie, the young lady who was being beaten and whatnot, and to some degree participated willingly early on in her life when she was young, and all of the weird things that they were into. This lady didn't understand, why didn't the young lady just leave, right? Just leave and go about her way. And I was trying to explain to her that everybody responds differently to um, stressful situations. And I basically told her, I said, there are 5 of us standing outside right now, and if something goes down, every one of us will do something different. There's some people that'll run. There's some people that'll try to fight, and there's some people that'll freeze. That we call that the fight, flight, freeze response, and it all happens in your amygdala, in that reptilian part of your brain, they call it, the oldest part, the part of your what we call autonomic system, which is a super complicated system that's in your brain. It's not a conscious part of your brain, but a subconscious piece. And that controls a lot of things. It controls your emotions. How are you going to respond? Uh, in your cerebellum and all this stuff. So, I could walk down the hall and scare the daylights out of somebody just because I'm a 5'11" black guy with a stocky build, and all of a sudden, somebody might freak out, oh my gosh, and they might have a different perception or perspective just because, maybe their experience or maybe some prejudice or whatever it is, and they'll respond differently, than say you or I would seeing some other scenario like that. So, but yeah, people respond very differently to different types of things. And so yeah, this lady didn't understand, uh, why don't people who abused and just leave? And I say, well, you can't just say that that's the answer. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't work that way.
I mean, that would go into the question as to why the wife who's being abused by the husband just doesn't up and leave. I mean, it really would be the same thing. And there are certainly some understandings why not. And, that would have to be something that she would have to take into the factor. Perception of what is going on as opposed to the reality is all a part of understanding anxiety, understanding your stress and what is going on. And it's a part of our everyday lives. It's a part of our everyday lives that we have to deal with. Jennifer, did you want to comment on the subject of perception of anxiety as opposed to the reality? And first thing I know is your perception is your perception until it becomes something else.
Well, I would to support what Natasha was saying, and also Mr. Times. I think what we're talking about is our experiences. Like you said earlier, about your experience when you go to a store and you see black young men outside, a group of them. You've had some experience where you weren't safe in that space. And so that is what your schema, which is based on your experiences, taught you that, hey, this is not a safe space. Your body responds to it because you are interpreting it as unsafe. And then you also are training your amygdala when you recognize and you acknowledge that it wasn't an unsafe space. It was your anxiety about that situation because of something that happened before, right? So, in regards to what you were talking about, in regards to the Diddy trial and all these other things, we don't know how this young lady grew up. We don't know what her experience was, and we don't know all the details about what happened in that space. All we know is the traumatic things that have been communicated, whether people want to believe it or not. You can't tell nobody what they do and what they experience unless you experience it yourself. So, it's going to be public opinion about it and they can have it. I know I won't be having no conversations because I think it disregards the trauma that she's reliving right now every day. I don't care how much money she got. Okay. And that has impacted her and it will for the rest of her life and her babies as well. So, yeah, that's what I think about that. But realistically, though, our experiences teach us what's safe. And we have to learn that, just like in that definition that I gave you, that sometimes that may not be true in that moment, in that context, at that time. And we have to really learn how to really, well, it's been hard to learn it unless you're doing the work, because our parents didn't really teach us that, okay? And it's hard to teach yourself that. But if you have support and you are willing to learn that and maybe go to therapy, you can recognize that, okay, then this is my body's response and these are the facts and this is the difference between those two because this is what I experienced before. Does that make sense?
That's an important thing, that this is what I believe, this is what I perceive, but then when I look at it, this is the reality. I mean, if we go through life and be able to do that instead of, going on perception, things will be a lot better all the time. We are getting toward the end of our show. Jennifer, did you have a summary comment about anxiety, stress, and how to live with it?
I think it's going to be important for us when we experience our body's warning signs. Our body warns us when we feel unsafe. And that can be that anxiety, and we really are safe, like we were talking about, like you explained about walking around in the and black young men are there, a group of them. We have to really notice what's happening with our body because our bodies protect us. And it's amazing our bodies are, but it's not meant to last there for a long time. So if we can catch the warning signs, so if we can recognize, okay, my heart rate is increased. For me, it's my stomach. Like I know when my stomach not right, or I'm like nauseated, or I get this like chill over my body, or my breathing is more short, I'm anxious about something. And if I can recognize and to take a step back in that moment, if I don't have to protect myself, because it could be a situation where I do. But if I have a moment to really look at the facts, I can take some time to recognize it as soon as I identify the warning sign. So you got to know your body, and knowing the general signs of anxiety can help you pay attention to when you feel anxious and not just say, oh, I got to push through it, but taking a step back, take some pace breathing, mindfulness activities, and then taking care of your body in that moment can make a difference in how you respond in that behavior instead of doing what you think you fear because what is a perceived threat.
I think this conversation and this subject matter should be a prerequisite to those in school and maybe family therapy for anybody who is living and would help them have an understanding a little bit more about their own self and their internal self.
Mhm.
You have a summary comment, Natasha?
Well, mine will be in connection to the topic that Mr. Times had brought up, and it's just a reminder for us to practice empathy, extend grace to ourselves and one another, and really listen to understand and not judge, because at the end of the day, we don't know how we would respond in certain situations until we actually in that situation. So it's good that we develop the skills to practice self-awareness so that we could practice self-care when we have moments of anxiety and stress, to be proactive. But at the same time, let us not think too highly of ourselves as if we're prepared for a traumatic experience we may face tomorrow, because we don't know how we would respond to a trauma we may face tomorrow that we judge somebody else's response to yesterday.
Understood. Understood. Brother Time, same topic, same discussion.
Yeah, it's easy to judge other people by what you perceive is your standard. Yeah, we don't know what we might do when things happen in our lives, especially planned or unplanned. You could prepare all you want. You could prepare for the worst case scenario, and when things actually happen, uh, your body might do a whole lot of things that you don't expect. uh, and so we have to be, cognizant of that, and 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 just be patient and prayerful and mindful.
If I could interject this real quick, Brother Times, I saw a movie that I'm reminded of all the time. I don't know if anybody saw this movie called Crash with Terrence Howard, Lorenz Tate, several
Oh
other
yeah.
top-notch actors. And what they were trying to show is that what you expect the person to do is not what they did. The racist in the movie, I forgot the name of the actor who played the racist, but they showed him in the Social Security office or something, and he had a black agent, and he was being, very ugly and disrespectful with her. And then they show him at home with his family, and he's, making racist comments. But he was a person who worked with the, emergency services. And the black lady, he's the one that saved the black lady out of the car. He's the one that, went in there, fought through the flames, and he saved the black lady. In another instance, the if I can remember, and let me go to it, that the black man that they expected to be the good black man is the one that got killed by the. It's a great movie. I don't want to get into it too much, but it shows that the perception that we have of what that person will do is not always what they'll do. And I will go back and make sure I find the details on it, but that shows how sometimes the perception that you have is not always, because somebody may do something totally different, and it may not be exactly what you expect. And so I don't go through life just black and white, that this person is going to do this because this is what they believe. Of course, I use that as a guide, but at the same time, I understand that people have a free will, and they're not always going to go into the pattern. Okay, Times, I'm sorry, go back into the discussion. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes, it's quite good.
Okay, you know the kind of the part I'm talking about, that I
Yes.
messed up talking about?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
But
right.
it's
That person
about,
was dead wrong.
false perceptions. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we can have false perceptions just like you mentioned before about walking down the street or pulling up and seeing, a few black guys hanging out in front of a store or whatever, they could just be out there talking, or they could be, dealing drugs, or who knows what they could be doing. But our perception, what do they say? Perception is reality for a lot of people, for most people, and so we have to consider all things. I try to question certain things, because if I'm thinking one thing, that may or may not be true. And so I have to find myself, uh like Jennifer was saying, you got to know your body. If I'm having a response that is anxious response or whatever, I have to, or negative thought, I have to challenge that. Hey, what proof do I have that this is the case? What proof do I have that this is what I'm looking at? I probably don't have any proof, past experience or something I saw on TV or whatever. So we have to challenge that, and we have to think about it. And the last thing is grounding, which I personally can say I don't do enough of, not nearly, but grounding, putting my toes in the sand, sitting on the beach and just kind of, soaking up the vitamin D, and, doing deep breathing exercise and things like that tends to help with all of this stuff. So self-care, and more self-care.
Brother Times, can you give your final word as far as your information of what your practice is and what you're doing in Galveston now?
Okay. My practice is Agape Women and Family Counseling LLC. I'm at 2121 Market Street, Galveston, Texas 77550. And I usually see clients in the afternoons, and I also am going to be doing some work with parenting also, because that's a necessary thing. A lot of parents don't know how to parent, and they they think they should give their kids everything, but the truth is that all the things that they're trying to give their kids, the kids don't need. What they need is their attention. And so parents miss the boat on that. And this is across all socioeconomic, strata. So I'm going to be focusing on that for sure.
All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much for joining us tonight and having this discussion. Sister Natasha, you want to give your final word and how people could reach you?
Well, I don't necessarily have any final words. I just enjoyed the conversation as always. It's always fruitful. It's always an iron sharpen iron experience, just to hear from everyone else's area of expertise as well as their experience in serving people, serving humanity as a whole, and doing our part in helping people be better and become better, and not forgetting to include ourselves in that process. So I'm always grateful to be here. As far as to stay connected to me, people can reach out to my website at C as in cat, the number 4, L as in love, global.com. And that's that with that. I'm in the middle of a rebranding of myself, so it's about to be all different come June. Hey.
All right,
And
we
I have
look
a
forward
whole
to it.
story behind that. So yeah, I'm excited. New beginnings.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am. We look
thank
forward to
you.
it. Blessings. Sister Jennifer, your final word, and how did we do? How was our conversation?
See that question.
I want your feedback. I thought it went okay, and our discussion was very important about stress and being tied to the stomach. I didn't know it was tied to the stomach as much as that. And I think a lot of people are not aware how that and that acid reflux and all of those things that we talked about, and all the dopamine and how all of that's connected to the human body. I think it was a very important discussion, and I hope people get a lot out of it. And I'm glad we have it, and I'm glad we are able to present this platform of mental health to have this discussion. And we would like to increase our audience and have more people touch base with us and be able to benefit from what we are talking about. And
Definitely.
I've just got an increase in my computer set up, and I'm learning how to use it, and we will be able to advance and do a little bit better as we grow. So I look forward to that also.
Me
So
too.
your final statement, ma'am?
I looked up some things, and I wanted to say this about high functioning anxiety, because I think that's, as a millennial and a person that has high functioning anxiety, I think that's something that's important to share, especially in the Black community. High functioning anxiety hides behind productivity. If we're showing up and no one asks if we're okay, it's a trauma response. Keep moving so you don't fall apart. The grind becomes a mask. And yeah, I experience not that now as much, but I have, just, being a business owner, being a Black woman with purple hair, being diabetic, and having to keep moving and pushing so it doesn't win. I experienced that, and I did, and I sometimes still do a lot. And I think if we know what that looks like and it is a name to it, we can manage it. If we don't, it is going to cause us these long-term health conditions, that because we thinking that we productive, right? We able to catch the shoe before it drops, that we gonna be all right, but that's running on fumes, and then causes our bodies damage, and our relationships too. So I think we just need to keep talking about it, keep acknowledging it, even though we human, we all got it. we deal with it, and it's okay to, as long as we manage it. I am the founder of Adorn Counseling, and I am also an integrative medicine and nutrition specialist for mental health. And yeah, you can find me at adorncounseling.com. Google Adorn Counseling, Jennifer Cain, purple hair therapist. You'll find me.
Well, thank you very much. I thank everybody. I hope everybody out there that hears this, listens to this, finds some benefit, and we'll be coming back to you once a month, and we're going to have a discussion on what our next subject going to be. But mental health is our thing to talk about, and we thank everybody who likes and enjoys what we do, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.